The documented surge in THC use by kids and corresponding cases of serious medical harm caused by this unscrupulous marketing demands that we act immediately in the legislature to enact an enforceable regulatory framework for THC. As both the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor has emphasized with appropriate urgency, we do not have the option of doing nothing right now. But let's talk about the inadequacy of the current state of Texas law when it comes to THC. Present Texas THC laws are inconsistent, and they're inadequate to the tasks of protecting the public, particularly kids, and enforcing the law. They create confusion, they permit and encourage unscrupulous behavior, and they impede, rather than promote, safety and law enforcement. The TCUP program, the Texas Compassionate Use Program, which has been expanded and improved greatly in the past session, still receives insufficient support, and this set of bills attempts to address all of these concerns. Why now? Right, there has been a hearing. There is a bill that bans THC in the Senate right now, because we need to have this conversation. I personally have been advocating for decriminalization. I have filed legislation to move possession of small amounts of marijuana from a Class B misdemeanor to a Class C misdemeanor. I've sought penalty parity with different forms of THC. I mean, our policy has been a mess, and I've been advocating to clean it up for a long time. Partly because of the inconsistency, but because of the enormous destructive force that our THC laws have been on people and families and communities in Texas, particularly, but not exclusively, people of color. It is time for all of that to change, and this is a moment as people are grappling with the whole issue of THC, whether it comes from marijuana or the plant, its younger plant, hemp. It's the same molecule. And so part of what I want to do also is add some consistency to the law. During the regular session, senators were presented with the option of a total ban or doing absolutely nothing. Doing nothing was not an option then, it's not an option now, but a total ban, in my view, is neither enforceable nor desirable, nor is it respectful of the rights of individual adults to make consumer choices that Texans rightly wish to exercise. These bills present legislators with an option that is safer because it is more enforceable, and we have a controlled system that is visible and reliable, an option that honors individual choice, makes better use of enforcement resources and taxpayer dollars, eliminates the long-standing destructive criminal justice policies in place today, and increases support for medical THC by promoting Texas's compassionate use program. So we have to address two categories if we're going to get consistent and effective THC policy in Texas. The first is the one that has gotten the most attention, and that is hemp-derived THC products. Our current laws, as you all know, provide no uniform testing, no labeling, no age restrictions. A 10-year-old can walk into a gas station and buy a brain-damaging amount of THC, and that's not acceptable. The result is an industry that markets to minors, delivers products of dangerous and uncertain potency, and operates largely beyond the reach of the law. Marijuana, low-level adult use of the exact same molecule in the same quantities is illegal if it's consumed as marijuana. Marijuana possession today still accounts for over 30% of our drug-related arrests. We have for way too long been arresting and incarcerating people disproportionately of color while diverting our law enforcement resources away from violent crime. This old, antiquated policy continues to damage individuals and families and communities while unnecessarily imposing tremendous costs on taxpayers and communities and law enforcement. So we have two bills. The first addresses hemp-derived THC. It's largely built on the work of Chairman King. Many, many similarities. Lots and lots of refinements because we've had more time to look at it since it was first introduced back in March when it was passed unanimously out of the committee in the House. The principal differences I want to highlight: this is a lower THC threshold. We do not want high potency junk in the stores. Our threshold under this bill is 5 milligrams of THC. It's very strict. This is recreational use. Secondly, the purchase age is 21. Third, I'm sorry, that's not different than Ken King's. But a second difference is there's an advisory committee that Chairman King built into his legislation We have more specific requirements about that, what that advisory committee is to do. It's going to biennially report to the legislature with respect to what's happening in the market, levels of sales, what's happening with respect to public health and safety, and make recommendations for future legislative sessions every year. So we want to make it clear what this advisory committee is supposed to do. We also changed the tax that's provided in the House version of this bill from earlier this year from an excise tax to an additional sales tax. And the reason for that is excise taxes, while they serve a purpose for something like gasoline where prices go up and down in response to all sorts of things, generally over time the value of an excise tax decreases as the consumer price index goes up, to avoid the erosion in the capital that's generated from the enormous sales of hemp-derived THC products in Texas, which, by the way, I think hit 267 million in the past year. We want to have an additional sales tax so that the value of that money doesn't get eroded. And that the next point is that where the sales tax goes, we want to use it well, and part of the place that we're going to direct it to is to the teacup program for greater education of physicians and consumers and the industry itself. We want more money towards law enforcement. We want more money towards testing. So the revenue that is generated through the sales of legal hemp-derived THC products will be used to make it safer and will be used to further the medicinal purpose of higher concentrations of THC. The final thing that's different, and the timing isn't really on our side with this, I don't think we can, as quickly as I'd like to, create a Texas Commission on hemp and cannabis. It's something we've consulted with a lot of leaders in this space that we think is going to lend a clearer vision, greater input, more harmony level of the hemp and of the overall cannabis industry. So we have explicitly in the legislative intent that the future legislature, hopefully the 90th, will create that commission to oversee the hemp and cannabis industries. So a couple highlights of the hemp that are common to the legislation that was in Chairman King's bill that's also in mine. We have a whole complete set of enforceable standards for hemp-derived products from seed to sale, including the production, manufacturing, testing, licensing, packaging, and marketing. We do have that purchase age in common at 21. Again, we have a lower THC threshold, tax revenue directed to support public health, law enforcement, and teacup. Moving on to adult use cannabis. Again, this is the THC molecule. I was thinking about having some graphics up here and showing you the difference between the two molecules, but there isn't one, so I won't. It cannot be legal, cannot logically be legal and illegal. If you want people to respect the law in Texas, it's got to be consistent. It's got to make sense. And to me, it doesn't make sense that a molecule of THC is legal if it comes from this plant and illegal if it comes from its same plant family that's a little older. That doesn't make sense. And so it is time right now for decrim, finally. My second bill will decriminalize the possession and personal usage of up to 2 ounces of marijuana. There will be limits also on how much you can keep at home and a very limited permission for home cultivation. We're not talking about industrial crops for sale, we just mean home use. We waste so much money and divert so many law enforcement resources and impact or cause so much injustice, and we have for years. So one other thing that I want to do in my decrim bill is provide a path for expunction for those who have been convicted of what now would be legal. Because that was wrong. It is wrong, and it shouldn't continue. So in addition to get rid of the injustice, we now are working towards a more harmonious way to regulate THC products. It will be up to a subsequent legislature to fully regulate THC products that come from a marijuana plant. I just don't think we can do that quickly enough in this session. We're going to need time for pharmacological industry, for law enforcement and administration to catch up. So we're going to decrim now. Next legislative session, we'll have particularly with the advisory committee's help and the Texas Hemp Cannabis Commission that gets created, a way to make this, I think, a national leading approach to THC products in Texas. Let's see if there's anything else I want to add before I want to call up a couple other people here who are real leaders in this space. Nope, I don't, except I want to add one other thing. I do want to take us just off track for a moment because there's something else very significant that just happens to be today, and while there's cameras and microphones here, I would like to remind everybody that today, July 30th, marks the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Medicaid and Medicare Act. I mention it because it's significant, and to a large degree, when we're talking about THC, we're talking about health, we're talking about its use for health, and we're talking about protecting people's health. And so it's fitting, I think, also to mention that our own President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Medicaid and Medicare Act into law 60 years ago today. With that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Shan Salvaje. She is a veteran who served in Afghanistan. She's a mediator and arbitrator who serves the people of Texas, and I'd like you all to hear from her.
Thank you, Senator Johnson, for this opportunity and your remarks and bringing awareness to the fact that the best leadership is the leadership that acknowledges when they have made a mistake or misunderstood something and they take steps to correct the policy. So I'm very excited to hear, especially as the Veteran Affairs Director of the Texas Cannabis Collective, that decriminalization is a top priority. It's way past time we stop putting people in jail for a plant that people are making millions off of. As far as the legislation that you're introducing, I can't say how much. As a veteran, it speaks to my heart, especially for the potential to introduce home grow, which we thought would be impossible in a state like Texas, but is so essential given our background, given that Texan spirit. You're right. You're right, Senator Johnson. It is about protecting people's health, and it's about empowering people to make their own healthcare decisions. As we are looking to educate the people and get them well versed in preventative care, I'm excited to see this conversation evolve. It's well overdue. We need to move forward from a prohibitionist stance and start to have real conversations. One thing that Senator Perry mentioned in the initial hearings for SB 5 was the veteran suicide rate, and he conflated those numbers with a correlation for cannabis use. And when we do that in our arguments, we actually take away from the real issues, which is addressing veteran health care, right? And taking care of our people, addressing mental health in this country when we have a shortage. Cannabis and hemp have both allowed people, especially veterans in the state of Texas, to actually self-manage their care. And yes, it is medical, and we are excited to see support for the TCUP program, but we want to make sure that Texas has an open and free market in the name of the Texas spirit, in the name of Texas entrepreneurship and our farmers, but that we also are empowering everyday people through education, through sound policy, by being good leaders and acknowledging maybe we were wrong on this. Maybe we can look at this again, have a real meaningful conversation in good faith. That's what I do as a mediator. We bring people together and we have a good conversation in good faith. I can't tell you the number of people, especially first responders and veterans and first responders retired and first responders who actually have responded recently to the flood. They helped clear bodies, they helped recover people, they're helping to rebuild our homes, and they rely on hemp and cannabis when they go home and they have to decompress from the day of the day's events and what they've seen. That's true for veterans, it's true for our first responders, and to criminalize those people or to sit on the Senate floor and insult them and their intelligence or their ability to make self-determining decisions, it's just not what we do here in Texas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this argument unfold on the Senate floor and to diving deeper into this conversation, actually building sensible policy for Texas. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the work that you and Senators Cook and Senators Eckhart are doing on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Really important points, and I'm grateful that you're here to make them. I next want to introduce my friend and colleague, Senator Molly Cook. She's an ER nurse. She's quite knowledgeable on this subject, and as you'll hear, one heck of a good presenter.
Thank you all very much. Thank you to the members of the public who are tuning in and the members of the media who are here today. It's an early morning. Let me just begin by saying, and y'all will hear me say this over and over again, we should be fixing flooding first before we talk about any other policies. The people across the state who recently were lost and the people who have been lost to disasters across the state deserve 100% commitment from our state. That being said, it is my joy and my honor to be here and stand beside Senator Nathan Johnson, who is whip smart, no nonsense, and crafts thoughtful policy with Texans in mind. And y'all know my career is rooted in public health, and my life's work can be distilled into a single guiding principle. I want the state of Texas to help make people healthier. It is because of that single measure in question that I say, does this policy, does SB 5 help my patients? That I cannot in good faith or good conscience or with any integrity that my profession demands support that bill because it doubles down on a model of prohibition and criminalization. We need to confront the uncomfortable truth. Prohibition of cannabis and THC has never really been about science or safety. It's about control, social, and economic. Who really benefits from banning THC? Jail vendors who make money off of food tray contracts every time a veteran goes to jail instead of going home. Pharmaceutical companies that make money when all we prescribe is an opiate instead of CBD from small veteran-owned businesses. Insurance or chronic pain to pay for their fourth house. Vertically aligned industries who depend on the state gatekeeping access behind medical bureaucracy to create a monopoly. SB 5 is not a bill for the people of Texas, and I'm so proudly signed on to Senator Johnson's bills because they are bills for the people of Texas. Real substance policy requires nuance, investment, and courage. It means building robust behavioral health systems. It means distinguishing between someone with a joint and somebody experiencing psychosis and tailoring the state's response to each of them appropriately. This risk hovers below 2% with or without heavy cannabis use. Prohibition has made cannabis more dangerous, and by refusing to decriminalize and regulate marijuana, we've actually incentivized high-potency THC derivatives. We've incentivized the very behavior that chemists and manufacturers that we're now targeting. Prohibition economics always favored potency over safety. Prohibition begets bad actors creatively circumventing the law. And let me add here, there's a lot of comparison between alcohol and cannabis. Ultimately, that comparison is unfair. The truth about alcohol is that there is almost, I would say there is no therapeutic use at all. Every once in a while we see a study come out about a glass of red wine a day. In reality, there's no therapeutic value to alcohol. There's a lot of therapeutic value, well documented for centuries, for cannabis and marijuana. And so prohibition simply does not work. One joint, one impulse purchase, one edible can threaten for a lifetime a person's access to housing and employment and health insurance. We've constructed an entire apparatus of criminalization around a plant that was medicine for millennia before it became a weapon of social control. We constructed a confusing, ambiguous, and punitive patchwork of bad laws in this state, and we are asking our constituents to trust that this time it will be different. It's only August, but this year we've already arrested and booked over 17,000 times for simple marijuana possession under 2 ounces. That's a lot of human cost and a lot of money. The evidence is overwhelming. Prohibition failed for cannabis and marijuana. It will fail again with hemp-derived THC. It's never achieved its stated goals. It wasted billions of dollars, destroyed millions of lives, and made every problem it claimed to solve demonstrably worse. We've got a chance this special session to turn this around. And I want to close by just saying, with an open heart full of gratitude, good work, Texas. This ban almost passed during the regular session. The people of Texas, small business owners, our veterans, the people who demonstrate the richest and most beautiful qualities of this state came together and said, do not pass this ban. Stay together, stay the course. We can turn this around and create thoughtful, nuanced policy with the leadership of Senator Johnson and some of our other colleagues. Thank you all so much for your attention to our comments today.
We'd be happy to take questions. Just delighted to stand up here with Molly and Sean and get their expertise on this. Questions for anybody, from anybody? Oh, actually, I wanted to make one more point. There are a few issues where partisan divisions are less relevant than THC. Just wanted to make that point. Yes, sir.
Senator Johnson, sitting in that exact same spot, Dan Patrick, the day of the veto, said that he can't see himself sitting up there on anything that gets voted on that's short of a total ban. Once the veto happens, they immediately file an additional ban. You have the author of that bill saying that law enforcement is calling it the new meth. How do you even get to a starting point when that's the conversation on the other side?
Well, the starting point is that the governor has vetoed the ban. The lieutenant governor has done an excellent job of raising public awareness of what the true problems are. I don't know where that political wrangling goes. What I do know is the Senate has not previously had anything they could get behind that they could call an option to ban the stuff that's causing the harm and regulate the stuff that actually is useful to people and that people want. I can't tell you where this is going to go. We're here in a special session, largely over this issue. So we will see where it goes from here. I just wanted people to have my bill is a ban on everything other than 5 milligrams of hemp-derived THC products. It's a fair question. We'll have to see where it goes.
To clarify on the ban, something that Governor Abbott made, he just highlighted was the synthetic or synthetically fried eight and other things. Does the 5 milligram limit that you're describing? Is that 5 only or any approach?
Perfect question. Delta 9 only. All other isomers, which is such a cool word, I looked it up. That would be Delta 8, Delta 10. They're illegal. There will be research on those things. People might determine later on that they're safe. Right now, the evidence doesn't look very good. That stuff is banned. Come back to you.
The Senate's version, Senate Bill 5, is eligible for debate. So are you concerned that the Senate could move forward with that before these bills that you're talking about today would finally even get a chance to hear it?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But this is also a process. It's always a process. If a ban flies off the floor this week and goes over to the House, there is another chamber, and we'll see what comes back from the House. We'll see if there's another special session. I think it's really important to put this in front of the public, in front of voters, and in front of legislators today. So as this process unfolds, we'll see if this thing gets some traction. I certainly hope it does. You've heard the testimony of my colleagues up here. Very compelling.
Filed a map for proposed redistricting that would, if the votes hold from 2024, eliminate 5 Democratic seats. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it's, I don't want to steer too much off track, but I guess I'll take the question. I've been pretty outspoken, intense willingness of this state to move forward. I don't want to be partisan about this, but for Republicans to move forward in response to Donald Trump pulling their strings. Todd Hunter's a friend of mine. I have immense respect for him. He's an excellent and valuable legislator. I'm friends and have respectful relationships with most of my Republican colleagues here in this building. It saddens me greatly to see on them to essentially subvert the will of the electorate in the United States. I consider this entire action illicit, and I think there should be a loud resistance and backlash to it. I don't have any respect for those maps whatsoever. Yeah, please.
I just want to say one thing about the maps. Fix the flooding first. Fix the flooding first. That's the message on the maps. We don't have to do this. We don't need to do this. Fix the flooding first. And I'd also just love to come back to your question. We are going to hear SB 5 on the floor today, likely to move based on previous votes. It's so important for constructing this narrative, for respecting the organizing that's been done by the veterans and the people of Texas, that someone as smart and as pro-small business, as Senator Johnson, to put out thoughtful regulation. This does have to move to the House. It might have to come back to us. We might have to call another special session to get it done. And so it almost has no bearing on continuing this conversation and having a strong, smart voice like his at the table for it. And then just as a healthcare professional, synthetic and naturally occurring cannabis, THC, very, very different. I've treated patients on all kinds of substances personally in the emergency department. So another important thing to remember is all the commonality we have with even the author of SB 5. It's very dangerous to put 2 different substances in one beverage, right? It's very dangerous, synthetic THC. And I've passed 2 bills last session trying to kind of curb this smoke shops next to schools. So there's a whole lot of commonality that we can all draw on as we push forward to a solution that really does work for all Texans.
Can I know that you're asking about redistricting, but the thing is that these not so small, THC is not such a small issue. The people clearly showed up. They decriminalized it city by city, and yet we're having this conversation. You asked earlier, how can you have a conversation when they start with prohibitionist rhetoric and the arguments are not based in good faith? We're not actually discussing policy. We're espousing rhetoric and then not getting to the meat of the issue. But I want to say that the voters did speak. They did decriminalize. They have, I think, close to 70% of Texans want regulation. And another percentage, more than majority, want you to stay out of people's cannabis. They want you to stay out of their gardens, stay out of their medicine cabinet. It is a voting issue. The people spoke, and it relates very much like with these other issues that we see on the docket. They do very much relate to the bigger issue of redistricting and actually representing the will and the best interests of the people of Texas. And I hope when it comes to THC, it can be a first step for Republicans and Democrats to come together, because as a neutral, as a veteran, it's not my job to take a side. It's my job to look out for the public interest of the people. And I take that commitment. I know I'm retired. I'm not a part of the service anymore. But I take that commitment seriously, and I hope our legislators do too, because the people are neither red nor blue. It's time to serve their best interests, and THC is a voter right issue, and it very much has to relate with redistricting and gerrymandering.
We got 1 minute.
Thank you.
Natural occurring minor cannabinoids or natural.
Say it again.
The natural occurring minor cannabinoids, how are they addressed in your bill?
Naturally occurring minor, are you talking about like THCA?
THCV or
Level of detail we'll get into, and especially if this bill gets any legs. With 60 seconds left, I can't dive into that.
Gary Bidley put out a statement. He also refiled the Senate version of this bill, but said that he's willing to work. Have you talked with anyone on the House side about possibly implementing these in their proposals?
Yes, I've had some conversations. We could see this bill come back to us from the House, ironically. Yes, sir.
What do you think is the obsession with the Republicans promoting Texans to get into something like the TICA program that still to this day is federally illegal over the hemp market that is federally legal? And how do you think things will happen with the federally legal thing, tax dollars promoting the expansion of?
Yeah, as if our state laws weren't confusing enough, we have a fairly inept approach to THC regulation at the federal level, which is pathetic. We got every state being in conflict with federal laws. That's also something that has to happen, and it's going to require state-federal cooperation. And I think that the idea that we can't have teacup if we have a regulated THC market is about like saying we can't have Advil and prescription ibuprofen at the same time. So we'll have to work on that. Last question. Anybody?
Clarify just your role on the original SB 3 and the passage regular session and talk about.
Sure. Sure. In the regular session, as I mentioned in the layout, we were presented with doing nothing or having a ban. I'd had extensive conversations with people in the House, was assured that there is no way a ban is coming out of the House. But I think that the Lieutenant Governor did a good job of raising the specter of the harm of doing nothing. So I wanted to send, and several Democrats wanted to send a message that we do need to address this. I put an entry in the Journal that very day that said, I don't think a ban is the right approach. I told my staff if it comes back a ban, I'm against it. So when it came back a ban, I was against it. My position on THC has been consistent since I've been in office since 2018. At this point, I do not want to be presented with the option of a ban or nothing, and so I'm filing bills so we can do something the right way. Appreciate the question. I think we're out of time. We are a minute over time. Happy to talk to anybody outside of the context of this podium.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Molly, thank you.